The original Rockford Fosgate Punch 45 hit the market back in around 1985. Today we're going to show off a newer version. This is from 1992, the Punch 45 HD, which is the third generation of Punch amplifiers. This one was in the box, and this was during the time of the hybrid design. That's right, it had through the hole as well as surface mount components. If we look back at 1992 in the Car Audio and Electronics directory, we will see the amplifier retailed for $275. That's equivalent to $625 in 2025, so not cheap. Now, these were praised at being able to run complete systems with as much as 16 speakers back in the day. Ratings included 4 ohms 22 watts by 2, 2 ohms 35 by 2, or bridged at 8 ohms 45 watts, bridged at 4 ohms 70 watts. Now first up, we'll start off with 4 ohm stereo. It's rated 22.5 watts by 2 at 12 volts. Let's try certified test. Takes us up to 1% distortion. And we get, oh, look at this, about 42 watts per channel average at 13.69 volts. Let's try the uncertified test, which takes us up to the clipping point and find out if we get more power. And yeah, just slightly, 44 and 41. Here at 13.69. We will run these tests at 1 kilohertz. When we bridge the amp later, we'll be using the 40 hertz tone. Dynamically, we send a pulse tone into the amp and it does about the same. We don't see an additional output here for dynamic tests. But we did try it at a higher voltage around 14 volts. Let's see what we get here. 4 ohms with higher than 14, and then you can see the power output did not waver very much by giving it another volt. But we also turned the voltage down to 12 and tried it again so it's closer to the actual ratings of the amplifier. And here you go. Again, right at 40 watts per channel at 12.5 volts. Next up, we'll try 2 ohm stereos rated 35 watts by 2 at 12 volts. The tests here first are going to be in the mid-13s, certified up to 1% distortion using 1 kilohertz track. And there you go, right around 72 watts per channel at 13.63. Uncertified, again, takes us up to the clipping point. We should get just a little bit more power. And there you go, 68 and 76. So about 73 watts there average. Then we'll try the dynamic burst here, sending a pulse tone into the amp. And for some reason, channel 2 is a little bit slacking. Got to pick up the pace here, pecani sauce. We get 73 and 64 at 13.65. Now let's bump up that voltage to a little over 14. Try the certified test again. And we do get a little bit more power here. You can see in the mid 70s per channel at 14.26. And if we drop it down to 12.5 volts, let's see how that affects the output. Certified test again using 1 kilohertz track. And yeah, it's a little bit less. Just right about 60 watts per channel at 12.4 volts. Now these amplifiers were not rated for 1 ohm stereo loads, but as we all know, a lot of people ran them at those loads, so let's try it here on the Dyno. And there you can see 92 on one channel, 78 on the other, so a little bit of difference there again. Channel 2 is a little slacking, but yeah, close to 100 watts per channel. Pretty cool. Let's try uncertified up to the clipping point. And again, right about the same, 93 and 80 at 13.5 volts. Then we're going to try that dynamic track, sending that pulse tone of 1 kilohertz into the amp. This is the IHF 202 test. And there you go. Channel 1 is strong, over 100 watts. 110 and 83. We might need a little bit of juice there revived on channel 2. But let's try 4 ohms mono, where we bridge the amp. It's only rated 70 watts. Certified, again, we're using 40 hertz track this time. And there you go, 123 watts at 13.67. So it well exceeds, almost doubles the output that they suggest. Uncertified up to the clipping point, we do get a little bit more power here. 139 watts at 13.65. That's pretty impressive from a quote-unquote 45 watt amp. Dynamic burst sending a pulse tone of 40 hertz into the amp. And there you go, right around 150 watts, 13.65. Of course, we are going to bump up the voltage a little bit here and try it certified to 1% distortion. We do get a little bit more power, 134 14.31. But what about if we drop it down to 12.5? Let's see what we get here. Certified 40 hertz, we get 102 watts at 12.47 volts. Now, since this is the dyno test exclusively of the Punch 45 HD, we're going to try 2 ohms mono. Again, the amp is not rated 2 ohms mono or 1 ohm stereo. And you can see here, certified, we get 147 watts, 13.61 at 40 hertz. Of course, we're going to try it uncertified as well up to clipping. It's not very smart to run this amp down to this load, but I'm doing it just for you guys. 164 watts, 13.58. Now let's send that pulse tone like the kick drum kicking into the punch. And there you go, look at that. We're climbing up almost to 200 watts. 194 at 13.55, again from a 45 watt amp. But what about if we bump that voltage up a little bit and try that dynamic test again? Can we bust 200? Yes, we can. 209, 212. Keeps a counting. 212 at 14.2. Insanity. But what if we want to drop it under 2 ohms mono? Only a big dummy would do that, right?
40,000 at 0 ohm. 0.
Well, not quite 0 ohms, but we are going to run the under 2 ohms mono test here. It's not rated for anything under actually 4 ohms mono. But here you can see dynamic burst at 1.6 ohms mono. That's 0.8 stereo. 219 watts, 14.28. But we're not done. What about 1.33 dynamically? 1 kilohertz, 213 watts. We stopped the test soon because we didn't want to damage the amp. Still crazy. Here's all the results. If you want to pause this, you can look through my scribble scrabble writing and decide what the amp did totally. It was impressive, but we know, those who know this amp is impressive. So I've run all the tests here on the Punch 45 on the amp dyno, all the way down to like 1.3 ohms bridged. It's not even warm. Now I know the tests on the dyno are pretty quick. You know, they're only about 10 seconds long each. But typically when I run a class AB amp for, you know, through all the different tests, especially in this case where I did low and high voltage and all that, amp gets really hot. But in this case, it didn't get really hot. So it's gonna be interesting to see what it does on the quad box. What do you guys think? You ready to see it? Let's do it. So in order to give you guys all the extra content, I decided to use this video just for the amp dyno test and show you all the different tests. But I do have another video on the Wilson Audio Labs channel where I'm showing this amplifier powering 26 speakers. That's right, 8 subwoofers, and amazingly, 18 mids and highs. Crazy. But not only that, I put the quad box in the Sequoia and then hooked up the Punch 45 to the quad box and did some SPL tests, and you guys just aren't going to believe what this amp did. Stay tuned for that. All right, guys, so we have the Punch 45 HD hooked up here in the Sequoia with the 412s. I don't know if you can see them back there, but they are definitely back there behind the seat. We have the amp hooked up down here beside me, and we're gonna try it out and see what kind of SPL we get. Hopefully we don't bother the neighbors. Whoops. All right, my friends, one final try. We're gonna see if we can surpass that one number that we haven't yet. Here we go. Quad box wired at 1 ohm mono, Punch 45 HD on the scene. Can we get it? Let's find out. All right, my friends, sorry for the tease, but check Wilson Audio Labs channel on YouTube for the full video of the Punch 45 HD. This was just a dyno video. Lots of flexing, lots of interesting stuff with 26 speakers. Thanks always for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Till next time, Big D, I'm out of here.